My name is Eddie Andrews. I'm the Mayoral Committee member for Spatial Planning and the Environment. You are in this meeting tonight. We are talking about the polyphagous shottle borer beetle. The purpose of tonight's engagement would be to sensitize yourselves to what we have done out in the Helderberg region, where we've been able to, for a short period, contain the beetle in the Helderberg Basin, starting as far back as 2019. The last period, we've now received confirmation that the beetle has been sighted in the south, and I think it'll be useful to inform everyone, not just those residents staying in the south, but everyone across the city, what you should be mindful of and how you could further assist us in identifying and spotting any trees that are reproductive hosts and need to be responded to by the asset owner. So tonight, joining me, we've got members from our Environmental Management Department, and of course, more importantly, members from our Invasive Species Department, who will present on what lessons learned out in the Helderberg area, and also just sensitizing yourselves to what we are now operationally looking at implementing in the south. And so thank you for your time and attendance. This meeting will also be recorded, and it will be uploaded, and the link will be made available once ready to not just yourselves to have a look again, but also you can send this link to anyone else that may be interested to understand a lot more about the polyphagous shottle borer beetle, but also what the city is doing and what your obligation would be as a private property owner, and how you can further assist us in containing the spread. So I'm going to hand over straight to our team. I know that they are ready to upload the presentation. Again, if your video is on tonight, please switch it off. It will have an impact on the presenter in terms of there will be potential lag on streaming this particular meeting tonight. Welcome to yourselves as residents. Thank you also to the councillors who have joined and the rest of Team Cape Town. And I'm going to have, before we go to Mashudu Lorraine, did you want to make any introductory remarks, or can Mashudu go ahead and present his slides?
Good afternoon, Alderman and residents and interested stakeholders. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We have known for a while that we probably will be here. We were hoping it wouldn't be so soon, but the beetle has now reached us on this side of the city. And it is imperative that we work as a team, and that's Team Cape Town, including the residents and stakeholders, national and provincial government, and the academic fraternity as well, to try and limit the damage that this beetle can potentially do. So, I just wanted to say thank you to the team from the Environmental Department, as well as our colleagues in solid waste and recreation and parks who are on this journey with us as well.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. So Lorraine Gaddens is the Director for Environmental Management Department in the City of Cape Town. Mashudu, when you're ready, please, you may proceed.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. Thank you for making the time to join us on this meeting. My name is Mashudu Parandwa. I am currently acting program manager for the invasive species in the City of Cape Town Environmental Management Department. So the presentation is going to cover the management of the polyphagous shottle borer beetle in the City of Cape Town. Just a bit of introduction. I will refer mostly in the presentation to PSHB, which is a short for the polyphagous shottle borer. This beetle is native to the Southeast Asia, And it's a very small beetle, the size of a sesame seed. The female can grow up to 2.5 millimeters, with males growing up to 1.5 millimeters. The beetle itself carries a fungi, so it's got a symbiotic relationship with a fungus called Fusarium eualacea. And this fungi, it serves as a food source for the beetle. And it's the beetle itself, once it enters the tree, it drills tunnels into the tree. So you can see on this image, there are tunnels. And both the beetle and the fungi reproduces within those tunnels in the trunk of the tree. The beetle and the fungi establishes in a wide range of species. We have added onto at the end of the presentation a link to the website where different species, host species, can be found. But then there are two kinds of host tree species. The first one is reproductive host trees. These are the trees where both the fungi and the beetle are able to establish and reproduce. And then the second category is the non-reproductive host trees, meaning that the beetle will be able to enter into the tree. However, it's not going to be able to multiply or to reproduce, and it's likely going to leave that tree to find a more suitable host tree. In terms of the identification or the symptoms that we look at, as I've already given the description of the beetle as well as the different kinds of host trees. The beetle itself, we know that it's able to move or to spread naturally through flying. However, it doesn't have the ability to fly long distances, meaning that the most contributing factors in terms of the spread of the beetle is through human activities, which include poor handling and movement of infested wood material, such. I'm getting an echo. I'm not sure if somebody has unmuted their mic. Okay. So poor handling and movement of infested wood material, such as firewood or dumped wood, as well as the coarse wood chips. We have also found the beetle infesting nursery stocks, trees of about 2.5 centimeters in diameter, as well as tools and equipment that were used to cut or to remove infested material. If they were not properly sanitized, they do also form as a way of distributing this beetle, of moving the beetle around. And then in terms of the identification, or how we're able to see whether or not the tree has potentially been affected by PSHB, what you would recognize is that different tree species react differently to infestation by the PSHB, and not every beetle that's found in the bark of the tree is PSHB. So I just needed to highlight that there are beetles that bores into the bark of the tree, but they do not go beyond the bark. So what the PSHB does is, once it enters the tree, your tree will start creating or making stains around the bark. And then ideally, when you see this sort of staining all over the bark of the tree, would be to scrape the bark and just try and see what's happening beyond the bark. And if there is the staining and the tunnel further goes beyond the bark into the trunk, then that's an indication that the tree is likely infested by PSHB. The other indication that we use to identify any potential infestation, it's through the entry holes, or what we call the frass, I'm not sure if you can be able to see the tiny hole where I'm hovering the mouse. And then the other trees, what you will recognize is the dieback of the branches. I've just given an indication in cycle where you will see that part of the tree still looks pretty much alive, whereas the other half of the branches are dead. This is just another example of a branch dieback, which we use as an identification. And then other tree species will produce a white sugary exudes or chemicals that looks like sugar all over their backs. And again, ideally, once you notice these symptoms, is to try and scrape the back, see what's happening beyond the back. And in some species, you would observe excessive gumming or secretion of gum. The sticky stuff that normally you would find on the tree, but as soon as it becomes excessive, then that's another indication that your tree might be infested by the PSHB beetle. In terms of the impact that this beetle has, the CIB at the University of Stellenbosch, they did a study last year, and according to their study, they are suggesting that if nothing is done to manage the infestation of PSHB countrywide, in the period of 10 years, we are likely going to, or the impact on the economic impact of the PSHB, it's estimated at 275 billion rands. Obviously, from an economic impact point of view, the beetle also has got impact on urban and natural environment. It's got huge implications or impact on agricultural sector. We are aware that some of the agricultural crops are susceptible to the infestation by this beetle. Obviously, with more and more trees being affected and dying, that could result into stormwater runoff, obviously loss of ecosystem services delivery, such as carbon dioxide sequestration, reduced shade, which contribute on remediation for the urban heat island effect, as well as pollution reduction. There's obviously impact on safety for safety to human, safety to property, as well as infrastructure caused by dead trees. And then in terms of the City of Cape Town's operational response, we took the approach, or we took into consideration the invasion curve to sort of give us an indication of what steps do we put in place to respond to the PSHB invasion. And according to this invasion curve, there are four steps or control steps that one needs to take into consideration. So the first one is prevention of invasion by a particular species, which in this case, by the time we found the PSHB infestation, it was no longer possible to prevent it from entering the city of Cape Town. And then the second step would be once you've found an invasion of a particular species, then you would consider eradication. And eradication becomes possible in instances where in the population of the species that has invaded the area, it's quite small and it's localized into, or it's confined within a specific area. And then the next step would be containment if prevention and eradication was not possible, which means you increase the rapid increase in number of species and the spread. And then in this case of containment, the eradication is no longer possible, or it's not likely. So you would make efforts to try and contain the species, which has been the case for the last 5 years, where we were putting efforts to contain the spread into the Somerset West area. Unfortunately, only until 2 weeks back, we have found invasion of this beetle outside the Somerset West area where we were trying to contain the beetle, which then pushes us to the last stage of the invasion curve, which looks into long-term management of this particular invasive species. And the long-term management of this invasive species will mean that we will have to manage the population size to try and reduce it to as little population size as possible, because eradication, prevention, and containment is no longer possible. So meaning that we are going to live with the species for as long as possible. And the least we can do then is to manage the beetle. And then what we've done so far between 2018 and 2019, before the first identification was made, the city had already started developing the PSHB management protocol. We also established partnership with Stellenbosch University as Department of Entomology, which have been very helpful in terms of the identification, the DNA sequencing of any potential infestation that we have found so far. We also initiated the visual monitoring. We had people on ground on daily basis trying to search for the beetle to make sure that it doesn't catch us off guard. We also sensitize other internal key departments within the city of Cape Town. And at that point, the major role players were recreations and parks, because they are the largest custodian of trees in the city of Cape Town, as well as the solid waste management department for their role that they play or they need to play in terms of managing the biomass from infested trees and so forth. And then we also developed an online reporting tool. That tool allowed members of the public to notify us of any possible or potential PSHB infestation, so that we could be able to go out and do the assessment and check whether or not the trees that have been reported are affected. We then, in April 2019, got a first confirmation of the PSHB infestation in the Somerset West area. And then following that invasion curve, that's when we started with trying to eradicate and then contain the spread. And that's what we've been doing over the last 5 years. And then we've also conducted surveys.
Mashuda, sorry, Melissa, you have muted yourself now. Mashuda, just whilst we have this moment, on the screen we have a message there just confirming that you should hide the text there. I don't know if you can see it on your side. If you can just click there, hide, then it's covering the text in the presentation. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you, Mashuda.
All right. Then by June 2020, we had already surveyed the top 5 most susceptible trees citywide through visual monitoring. And to date, as I've indicated initially, we know that the PSHB is now at Somerset West, Gordons Bay, Newlands, and Rondebosch, as well as Mowbray area. And then since 2019 to date, we've rolled out a number of public awareness and outreach in partnership with Stellenbosch University, FABI. The first engagement that we had was hosted in Kirstenbosch in partnership with Sunbee. We've worked very close with the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. We are working very close as well with arborist associations. And the city is also a member to provincial and national PSHB working committee. We also serve at the Western Cape Invasive Alien Animal Working Group, where we provide feedback in terms of the status quo of the PSHB in the city of Cape Town. We have also reached out to our neighboring municipalities, including the Cape Winelands as well as Stellenbosch municipality. This is in effort to try and coordinate the efforts to manage the spread of PSHB, because whatever happens in the city of Cape Town does affect these other neighboring municipalities, and whatever happens on the other side as well does affect what happens with the invasion in the city of Cape Town. And then the top right picture is the photograph of the first outreach that was held in Christenbosch Botanical Garden in 2019, if not 2020. Yeah, it was in 2019. And at the bottom, this is the organized group that we worked very close with in the Somerset West area, a group of nursery owners. And then in terms of the current and future plans, because we've already passed the containment phase and we are in the management phase, or we're trying to manage the population of the beetle, we are prioritizing removal of infested trees in public open spaces and pathways. This is obviously to try and manage or reduce the risk of further spread of the beetle. We are finalizing the risk assessment on identified sites where the drop-off of infested material will be taken. This is being done in conjunction with the Recreations and Parks Department as well as our Solid Waste Department. And up to date, we have got a drop-off facility at Gordons Bay that has been identified. The risk assessment has been done for drop-off of the infested material and further processing or treatment of the material. We are also working very close with a company called Sustainable Heating, which has got facilities in Montague as well as in Claremont. And the indication from this company is that they are open to take infested materials from members of the public, contractors for incineration at no cost to the members of the public. More information could be found on the website that's contained in the presentation. The email addresses and all the contact details are on the presentation as well, which I believe it will be circulated to all the attendees in case where you need more information in terms of how to go about incinerating your infested material. We are also busy finalizing the standard operating procedure for the management of the beetle in the city of Cape Town. And then we are also updating some of the management protocols, particularly with regards to handling of infested material, the transportation of material, how it must be done safely. And we will also be increasing the capacity for visual monitoring. We are also exploring other alternative monitoring systems in place, including chemical lure monitoring system that's available. We are also finalizing the C3 notification for reporting purposes and monitoring as well. It is important that where you suspect that you've got an infested tree, you do let us know so that we are able to collect the data in order for us to establish the extent and distribution of this beetle. We will be rolling out training to city contractors and private contractors, as well as service providers and our own internal staff. The training will focus on the introduction to the PSHB management protocols, how to identify, how to handle the infested material. And we will also be communicating more sites for drop-off of the infested material in the coming weeks once we've concluded our risk assessment. We are going to focus as well on collaboration with stakeholders, role players, and all interested parties, whether private or public and research institutions. We will also continue to keep you as members of the public informed or up to date with regards to the spread of the beetle, and that will be done via media releases and public engagement meetings like this one. And then in terms of what you can do to assist us manage the population or the spread of the beetle, we request that you monitor the health of the trees in your properties, around your properties, and you report any tree to the City of Cape Town for verification purposes. So if you suspect that a particular tree is infested by PSHB, you can report that using our online system. The website is provided, www.capetown.gov.za/invasive species. There's a form that you will complete giving us the detail of what you've observed and where the trees that you suspect have got PSHB are, whether in the private property or in public open spaces. Like I said, we need to collect this information so that we are able to know, or to know what the extent and distribution of this beetle is. You can also send us an email on invasive.species@capetown.gov.za. And you can also give us a call on the telephone number that we've included on the presentation. Once you've reported a potential sighting, one of our trained staff member will make contact with you to set up an appointment to visit your property for verification. We suggest, or we encourage that until your tree has been verified and we've given you recommendation of how to handle that tree, avoid cutting and removing that particular tree until we've come out and give you the verification and the recommendation of how the materials can be handled. But in cases where we have confirmed that your site or your trees have been affected by PSHB, we request that you do not try to save the trees, more especially the most susceptible trees that we know they play either as amplifier or the trees that are likely to allow this beetle to breed even further and spread. So don't try and save those trees. There is no other treatment to date. So there's no chemical treatment. There is no biological control that has been confirmed yet. So the only effective management or control method that we've got is the removal of the infested tree. We do encourage that you acquire services of a competent service provider to remove or to cut the infested material or tree and safely disposed that particular infested material. As I've indicated, once we've done the training, we'll make a list of the trained service provider available on our website or through media releases, so that when you do contact somebody to assist you with removal, you know they've been inducted and trained into the City of Cape Town PSHB management protocols. We request that you avoid moving infested material. I've mentioned that. Where possible, we recommend solarization of the material in sealed bags, possibly at the location where the material or the tree was cut. We do understand that space may be a constraint, hence we are making alternative sites available closer to the areas where we know they've been affected, and those details, as I've already indicated, they will be made available. Where you are the one handling the infested material and you are transporting such material, we request that you ensure that the loads that you are carrying with infested material are properly sealed or covered for transportation purposes to avoid further spread between one point to the other. We also encourage the cleaning of tools and equipment, whether used to treat, to cut infested material or not. I think we just need to get to the norm of cleaning our tools and equipment, be it your normal or day-to-day gardening tools. A 10% solution of bleach is sufficient to deal with any possible beetles that may be stuck on your tools that we need to use. We recommend that the cleaning be done before and after the use of the tools and equipment that you will be using to deal with any trees or plants. The other major thing that is contributing heavily in the spread of the beetle it's through the firewood. I think there are suggestions through contract tracing that has been done by one of our associates that the infestation or the invasion in the Newlands area is as a result of firewood that was moved from the Helderberg Basin to the Newlands area. So we recommend that you do not buy any firewood from area where we know that there is infestation of PSHB. If possible, just avoid the use of firewood. However, if it's not avoidable to use firewood, just make sure that you buy it where you are going to use it. So you buy it where you will burn it. So that is the message that we just want to put out there with regards to the firewood. And then, that in a nutshell is an update with regards to PSHB. As I've indicated, for more information, you're more than welcome to visit our website. You're more than welcome to visit the FABI website, where they're continuously updating a list of tree species that are affected, as well as the Sustainable Heating website for more information and details of how the incineration takes place and who you can contact and where you can take your material to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mashudu, for the presentation. I know that there are quite a few questions that have been posed in the chat box, and I'm just going to go through those in a moment, and then we will take a first round. If you are needing to pose a question, please let us know in the IM section, or just use the raise hand tab, and we will take it from there. I think it's also important to understand that the invasive species team, it's not a big team, it's quite a small team. We're looking to get extra capacity and really strategically deploying the team. What has also been, I've received quite a few messages myself where concerns were raised that the phone number that's used or issued has not been manned or not been answered. And there are two reasons for that. One would be in the event that there's an outage, the phones won't work. And the team member is based out in the southern suburbs, so that particular area, when they have load shedding, the phone won't work. And also on average, we get about just over 50 phone calls per day. That would exclude the emails that we would also receive, and that our team member there responds to all of those. The team will get to all of your requests, and so especially now when there's a high level of anxiety around the beetle and how you could respond to as a property owner, we understand there's lots happening there in that space. So the team will be getting to you. I'm going to go over to the IM section, and I'm going to ask that I'm going to post a message in the text now, just to say thread closed, so I know where to stop, and anything after that will be another round of questions. So I'm going to go right up to the top again, and so we can get some. Okay, here we go. I'm just moving up there. Okay, so the Google link has been opened. For those who've joined, after we started the meeting, please, if you've not registered your attendance on the Google link, please do so. We will be using that database to circulate the presentation, and once the link has been uploaded, to send you the link via that database. So please, that has been opened now. Mashudu, so I'm going to, I don't know how many you would like to take at a time. That was an audio issue. Patrick Dowling asked the question: does it only infest live trees and not wood products? It does. The impact will be limited to if it's a reproductive host. Bruce, please can the presenter click? Oh, we did that. Audio issue there. Another note. So Linda, there's a list that we have. Mashudu, I don't know. We will send that list to the database as well. There's a list of reproductive hosts so that you know what to look out for. I think that will be quite useful, and we will circulate that to you, Cheryl. Can the presentation? Yes, Cheryl, it would be emailed to you. Pippa, now that there are cases identified in the southern suburbs, will a designated drop-off site be made available? Yes, the answer is yes. We don't have it just of yet. We do have drop-off sites, but I think we're looking at one specifically to respond to the biomass that you are disposing of. And then, Neville, what about the Pan-African Farms purported effective treatment regime? I mean, it's difficult to comment. I'm not familiar with that. I do. We perhaps, if Mashudu, if you have any thoughts on that, we can respond to that one. That's your first one, Mashudu. There's a wealth of information noted, Angela. Drop-off without movement protocol to prevent further. I think with regards to the protocol is there, and I think we've been entirely dependent on all stakeholders responding, to that regard, where we dispose of it. So we won't have our law enforcement officers necessarily on highways monitoring that, and we're entirely dependent at this stage on the whole of society to assist us in monitoring that, and the protocol would guide us, and we'll send a copy of that through. Van Graan, that's the same one, the Pan-African Farms treatment. Well, I think Mashudu spoke about treatments, and so at this stage we have got no confirmation that there's treatment available. There are lots of products on the market, nothing that suggests it's actually responding to the beetle and eradicating that concern. So there's no treatment outside, but we will look at the Pan-African Farms treatment. Bill Downer, again, Pan-African Farms. Van Graan, here we go. So that's a site visit, just in terms of you reported one on the 23rd. So we note that. Billy Downer, so who bears the cost of private cutting down and removal? So if it's a tree on private property, the obligation rests with the property owner. So you would have to dispose of it as per prescribed in the protocol. The Mashudu and the team members will come and verify the tree, but private property. Trees on private property would be the responsibility of the property owner. VG guess with winter months coming up, checking wood suppliers. I think it's part of our stakeholder engagements as well. So the answer is yes. They will engage as far as wide as practically possible. Pippa, again, the Pan-African Farms one. Then I've got Hanu. I think maybe, Mashudu, if we can talk about the ones thus far, and then I'm going to I've got a while to go till the thread has been closed. If you can respond to those ones I've passed on to you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. So yeah, we are aware of the Pan-African farms. However, the product that they've got registered, it's only approved for particular species. It's not approved for use in the urban forest or in the urban trees. So there is that limitation. You can't just use it anywhere for obviously compliance purposes. And then the other question, how long, I'm just from Billy Downer's question. I think the Pan-African question was asked twice, and just let me know if I'm skipping someone's question. The other question, it's how long after one has reported the tree can expect. Yeah, so we obviously are dealing with quite a number of reports to date. As I've indicated in the presentation, we are increasing our staff members that will assist with verification of the reports. So we will try. I don't want to give an unrealistic turnaround time, but we will try and get to each and every report, preferably within 7 working days, depending on the number of reports that we are receiving on daily basis. There are other, don't want to call them partners, but other associates that we work very close with that are also assisting us in terms of verification of some of the reports. So some might be able to come and do the verification before we get to your report. So the idea is to at least have a team responsible for each of the regions in the city of Cape Town. What we're doing is we split the city into 4 regions, but obviously majority of the people will be based in the southern region, which will cover the Newlands, Rondebosch area and the Somerset West area. But we still need to also monitor other parts of the city. I mean, we just had a false report, which we were convinced it was PSHB in Belleville yesterday. Fortunately, the DNA sequencing came back confirming that it's a negative report. So, but we are increasing the monitoring capacity on the ground to try and get to all the reports as quickly as possible. The one about the cost has already been covered. The one about firewood and winter has been covered. The Pan-African, we've spoken about that. What does solarize mean? Solarize means it's basically a heating process where you would bag the infested material, seal the bag, and leave it in the sun. For the recommendation is minimum of 6 weeks in the sun with direct access to the sun. The heat from the sun into the sealed bag. Scientifically, they say it's very effective in terms of killing the beetle. And once the solarization process it's done, then you are able to use the infested material for other purposes as well, because we do understand that there is value in some of these wood chips or the infested material. So if you could solarize minimum 6 weeks, obviously in winter it will be longer because we don't have much of the of sunlight or heat. So yeah, but in summer minimum 6 weeks solarization. And then Hanno, we will get back to you. So what you can do is you can drop me an email or forward us your email, just in case if we had missed it, if it's been that long before we since you've sent us your report. I
think we're now by Ken Price in terms of, so what the trees that have been painted, that's to prevent bark stripping, Ken. So I think we're there now. Mashuda, just the category, is it listed as alien invasive species? The answer is yes. Just to remind us what the category is.
Not yet. Yeah. So the idea was to list it as or the
1A
document that went out for public comments was to list it as category 1B. So we still need to get an official update from DFFE in terms of how far they are in the process of getting it listed.
Okay, then we're moving down the list. I'll just flag some for you as well. I'm seeing some of the raised hands, but we'll get there in a moment. Guy, the recording will be made available. Yes, please look in the IM section for the Google link to register your attendance so we can send that there. It's further up, Guy, if you'll find it there. Adam, is there no chemical solution available to control? I think Mashuda has responded to that. Jay Kruger, 3 island first actions. Yes, we agree with that. I think we also spoke about registering that, and the team will, at least within 7 working days, get out there. Marja, the type of trees, we will send that list so you know which trees are reproductive hosts. So we will send that through to those who've registered on the database. Angela, yes, we actually agree with your remark. And it takes about 2 years for the beetle to completely take out the tree. And then there's a guest, has removing tree species been proven to be effective method of preventing the spread? I think maybe you want to talk about this one. There's one, has tree species, has the removal of tree species been proven to be effective method of preventing the spread? I suppose yes and no. Maybe you want to reflect on the lessons learned out in the Alderburg area?
The removal of infested tree obviously has been very helpful in delaying the spread. I think if we had not done anything in the Helderberg region over the last 5 years, the situation would have been worse by now. The prevention of further spread is obviously dependent on how the material is being handled. So human behavior, it's what determines the further spread. So if we are properly handling our material, then we can reduce the population size. We're not going to be able to eradicate that I just need to emphasize. But in terms of managing the population size or keeping the population size into a manageable level, I think that's possible. But it heavily depends on human behavior, how we handle and move the infested material.
Thank you, Mashudu. I just also quite a few messages regarding the cost burden to remove the trees on the private property owner. So I think I have responded to that. We are exploring at options, but at this stage the obligation is with the property owner, and we aren't able to further expand it at this stage. Dr. McDowell, I believe there's a question that we've missed earlier up in the thread. Perhaps if you want to maybe just pose that question now to Mashudu, so I'll probably miss it if I go back up again. Dr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mashudu, for the hints and tips and regulations on inhibiting the transfer, the movement of this dangerous pathogen. I think a couple of questions, or a point I would like to make at the outset is biocontrol, I would say, is probably the only sustainable means of getting to control this disease. And I believe there's some very successful research in the Free State where a researcher actually believes he's obtained a biocontrol for this. Maybe you could say a bit more about that. Another point, how does it get around without people driving, taking it around with firewood, etc.? Is there any data on how far these creatures will fly, with or without their fungus? The other point is, what about wind? I mean, wind can possibly blow these little beetles and the funguses, pretty effectively around Cape Town. Is there any research or answers on those questions, perhaps? Especially the question of biocontrol, which I think is, the rest, you say you're controlling the spread, you're trying to limit the spread or slow the spread. We're talking about sustainable reduction to manageable capacities by using a biocontrol, which I believe is an advanced stage, if not considered successful. Unfortunately, but short of electricity. To look up the name of the research in the Free State, but maybe you could just say a little bit about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. Mashudu, let's take some responses to those questions posed.
Okay, thanks, Alderman. In terms of the biocontrol, the research in the Free State, I think you mentioned, we're not aware of that research that has been done to confirm that they found the biocontrol. And my team can jump in here as well to give input. I'm not sure, Andre, if you're here, or Mahube. But what we can do is obviously to investigate that and try and find out how far they are with getting approval to release that such biocontrol agent in the wild. You would probably know that with biocontrol there are several tests that are run in order to avoid creating situations wherein after release and once you've gotten rid of the problem, then you've created another problem. So yeah, it would be interesting to try and find more information on what that researcher has found and for how long their research has been running, and if obviously they've been doing it through the PPRI, and they've got necessary authorizations, obviously, to allow such agent to be released out in the wild. And then in terms of the distance that this beetle is able to fly naturally, obviously, Cape Town being a windy city, the wind will most definitely have effect on how long this beetle is able to fly. But I can confidently say, based on the observations that we have made in the Somerset West area, it's not really a long distance that they are able to fly naturally, and the wind didn't seem to have that much. I'm not saying the wind does not have effect or does not influence the distance that it can travel, but it doesn't seem to be that much, because there are areas on the edge of the Somerset West area where you do have strong winds and so forth, where the beetle has not gone beyond, which would suggest that the wind is it's assisting significantly with the movement of the beetle.
So what is its main vector of dispersal then, Shudu?
Sorry?
What is its main vector of dispersal? Can you put it down to one particular item, buying of firewood, which is the most, let's say, the most relevant way of how it's getting around right now, including human.
It's definitely human, say. It's definitely human. One, like I said, firewood, we sort of have got, firewood is one of the major distributor, but obviously there are people that are moving infested material unaware. And that on its own result in the beetle starting new colonies. I think there was a question about, does it attack only dead trees and not? It prefers. There was a question about whether or not it only attacks live trees. The beetle does prefer live trees, but it's able to live for a extended long period of time in the dead wood as well. And that's how it was first brought into the country through the cargo pellets. Because, but the major distributor, it's human.
The main factor is, of course, the fungus, which is not the beetle so much. So I presume the fungus moves the beetle very effectively. And that's about it, I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman, are there more questions that I've missed?
Yes, Mashudu, we're moving down the list now. Gary has engaged. Yes, we have engaged with our colleagues at National. There's as mentioned in the presentation, we are part of a committee with all three spheres of government. Sarah, just a thank you remark explaining the solarization process. Yes, Julia, we do have, that's part of our internal protocol, that our solid waste teams are fully capacitated to monitor when biomass is being disposed of at the recycling depots. Inga, what about the eggs of the host creature? Will they be killed when there's solarization? That's one. Mashudu, then Gary. That's just again, what is the commercial name of the registered product? There's another part. That's another one. Some arborists are asking us to persuade clients to remove the Aeson and Gunda trees from their properties as a preventer. Well, if I think we agree the trees infected, then we need to remove that. Is there an updated map of the occurrences? in the city that is updated? Yes, we do. I think in the presentation now, we don't have one yet on our portal, but in the presentation here, Penny, we have a map confirming the sites and the areas were also mentioned. Oh yes, this is the very important one that Tina asks, and I think we spoke about this in a week. It's not just in word, but there could be also being, when you and your family visit, let's say a public open space, and your kids are climbing the tree, and the beetle, can also be transported that way. Just want to reflect on that, Mashudu. And then, do we have a list of registered arborists? And then we'll park it for them. We'll move on to another round, Mashudu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Penny, we will circulate the updated citywide map of where the infestation is. I had it on my initial presentation, but I took it out because the data is coming in on daily basis. So you literally are doing creating a distribution map every single day. But we will circulate the most updated map. It will be made available on our website. The registered arborists, like I said, what we will do is make the list available of anyone who has been trained to handle the infested material, and that information will then be made available to the public, so that when you make a decision of who to use, you are making a well-informed decision. In terms of the arborist registration, that's a little bit out of my competency. I'm not sure if there's somebody from Rex and Parks or Arborist Association that can be able to comment on that. But what we will do from our side is to make available a list of the people that we will train. So that will include tree fellers, contractors, arborists, whoever is going to attend that training. We'll make those details available. And obviously, we need to get consent as well from those people to distribute the information to the public. Does the tree affect indigenous trees the same as exotic? Yes. There are some indigenous trees that are susceptible to infestation by the beetle. And so there are a few on the list. So on the list that we will share, you will see that there are some indigenous trees to the Western Cape that are affected. The list that's on FABI as well will also include some of the trees as well. So the link to the FABI website, it's included in the presentation, so you can also access it there, because they update their list more often, because the number of trees and species changes all the time. Because what we have found is that a tree that was identified as a non-host tree, they are able to go into some of them and change, either from being reproductive host to a non-reproductive, or the other way around. So the list on the FABI website, it's always being updated. And then obviously our one in the city of Cape Town will focus mostly on the trees that we have found in the city of Cape Town, and based on the level of infestation, whether or not we categorize that as a reproductive or non-reproductive host. But there are definite trees that we know they are highly susceptible to infestation. Those are your Asa Negundo, your London Plane, your English oaks, just to name a few.
Mashudu, so that list we will also circulate, but I think it's also useful to mention at this juncture that if you're unable to identify the trees yourself, you also could use the iNaturalist app that is also able to, where those support persons there are able to assist you with identifying the tree. So you can always just have a look at our list and seeing if you have a problematic tree in your garden or in the public open space where you frequent often. Mashudu, can we go for another round? I think and I hope I'm not missing anyone. So Jackie,
I think was next.
Yes, yeah. I think we spoke about that, Jackie. The idea is to definitely look at increasing the team and additional resources, and it will have an impact on the budget. But I think from our side, it is a priority in terms of getting additional resources and educating those external stakeholders. Anthony, what is being done in terms of awareness of the townships such as Guguletu? There are no health hazards at this stage, Anthony. It's just the issue around safety of persons, safety of infrastructure. With regards to awareness there, we understand that everyone receives the media release. We do have our sub-councils where we've sent they also receive the media release. But I think the method that works best across all 116 wards, a very short and brief and precise message on WhatsApp to inform them of what the issue, what the risk is, and what they can do to respond to that and help identifying trees. And of course, the in-person stakeholder engagement is also will be continued. Ryan,
can I just add on the townships, Alderman?
Yes.
So besides the invasive species programs that we run in the unit, we've got other green jobs related projects that focuses on townships, informal settlements, and so forth. And what we do is when we run such projects in the informal settlements or townships, we also use that opportunity to raise awareness on all environmental related all environmental related issues as well. So we do spread the messages around invasive species in general, and in particular the polyphagous short-haul borer as well. And we do work as the department. We do work with a number of contractors as well, where we encourage employment of people from previously disadvantaged communities. And part of the agreement is when such people are employed or are given work opportunities to be involved in these green jobs projects, they are also inducted into environmental awareness programs, which will focus on generic programs within the environmental management, invasive species management, and so forth. So we are covering those ground or that landscape as well, because we understand that in terms of reaching out to the communities, we can't take a one-size-fits-all approach. So we're using some of our projects and programs that we're running internally. And as the Alderman has already indicated, we do engage with sub-councils. We do attend sub-council meetings where we do give some of these presentations as well to sensitize our communities about invasive species. Thank you.
Thank you, Mashudu. Can you just move down the list? I've got Michael, Ryan. I think that's been responded to in terms of indigenous trees. Gary, so if we can start at Gary Klugman and then move down there again, Mashudu. Yeah, you still mute Mashudu?
Okay, I'm here. I'm trying to scroll down to follow.
So Gary Klugman, at 7:27. The question there, if you have the timestamp on the message.
7:27. So does the city have a biosecurity
perimeter to prevent
transportation to the southern suburbs? Currently, not.
No.
But yeah. that's a straight no. Yeah. That's why I as I indicated earlier on, through the contract tracing from one of our associate, the current infestation in Newlands, it's suggested that it's through firewood that came from the Helderberg Basin, the Nomzamo area, basically, just to be specific. So there isn't, yeah.
Aubrey, the answer is yes to that, and you'll see those citrus trees on the list that we will circulate as well. Councillor Ndumi, what are the risks if this beetle getting into a human? What would the effects be? What measures do you take if you get not necessarily a concern at this stage, Councillor Ndumi. As humans, we're only transporting that in our clothes or wood materials that we've removed from the Helderberg Basin or wherever the infected area would be. I'm also, again, the PAN Free State research, we've responded to that, and we need to further discuss that as well. Gary has the cock. We'll just see it clear. Oh, where's Gary? That message jumped up. Gary has it. So maybe you can see. Yeah, you want to just start there again? We can move down again, Mashudu.
Yeah. So just on the Pan-African, I'm happy to provide more info to Billy Downer in writing outside this meeting. So we can take that discussion outside this meeting. We'll just get your details, Billy, and then we can engage afterwards.
And not just that, I think just generally the principle, if there's data available that we need to be mindful of, that is most welcome. I think let's not what we've put forward today is based on data that we have received and engaging with external stakeholders. But if there's anything we've missed, please let us know. We're more than happy to engage and debate on what you're proposing. Are you moving down, Mashudu?
Yes, I'm at Gary's question. Has the city explored the possibility of obtaining the natural predator? I think we've touched on that. To date, there isn't a registered natural predator that's available for use. We do understand that there is research currently being done, but again, with biocontrol, the research or the experiments that are being done, it's not something that you can just do overnight. It takes a lot of time. So once there is biocontrol approved and allowed for use or for release in the wild or in the natural environment, we will definitely be considering using such biocontrol agent. So the next question, is it Shiham? Sorry if I butcher your name. What about buying public parks? Yeah, like one-bag parks. So as I've indicated in the presentation, if we can avoid using firewood completely, let's do that. I think part of the internal engagements that we're going to have with our internal stakeholders as well would be what direction we take with regards to bringing in firewood into our public facilities. But obviously, the best practice would be obviously looking into banning bringing the firewood into the facilities in the nature reserves already. We're trying to where there are drying facilities as well. We're trying to reduce the amount of firewood that's coming in, because that just presents high risk in terms of the spread, more especially if the material is not going to be inspected. So, but there will be further communication in terms of how we are going to deal with firewood going forward in public open spaces as well as the nature reserves. Stain.
Yeah, that's just additional stakeholders we can engage at those institutions. I think, that's just for noting. And then we now with Claire, the Google link. The link is sent there, Claire. We're now at Olga van der Merwe, Mashudu.
Yeah. It's very difficult to check roadside vendors because they move quite a lot. But what we are doing is we are checking all the firewood areas where they're selling or preparing the firewood and so forth. We are monitoring those. But as and when we do find the roadside vendors, we do check their firewood if host species, and if the material that they are selling it's infested or not. But like I said, it's very difficult to manage because they move around quite a lot. Because you get a notification an hour later when you get to that particular site, the person has already moved. But yeah, we are prioritizing now the facilities where this firewood it's been prepared, pegged for distribution.
So Mary Rose, this is Mary Rose. The answer is yes. That's the safety concerns. Penny Price. A list of other contractors and teams being made of EPWP. The answer is yes to that. I think Mashudu covered that with the Green Jobs program, especially in our informal settlements. Jane, yes, that's exactly why we spoke about our engagement with our solid waste department. They are aware of what's happening. Our protocol document will just sort of be very clear and specific in terms of our operational response, and that's the primary focus at this stage. Our recycling depots. Boldowner, thank you, Mashudu. There's been further engagements there. Aubrey LaRue, has there been reports of the beetle in the city? Yes, the answer is yes, there have been reports in those areas. Dr. Van or DC Van Gaan, thank you for us. Colin Engel, when dealing with the questions, please state both the participant's name as well as the time of the question, so that we can all equally find the question being dealt with. Thank you, Colin. That's why I've made those remarks earlier on. Mike, 746, Mike VA, with winter coming is difficult. Yeah, I think we spoke about the firewood issue and compounded by the fact we have outages. Agree with you, Mike. Alinda at 749, thank you, Cox, for the presentation. And we're going down. Is that the last? I've got Linda as the last one on my side. Mashudu.
It's the last one on my side as well.
I'm going to go to the participants list. There were some hands raised, and I saw those names. Jimmy, are you wanting to still pose a question? And then we've got Hank, and then we've got Ballasted. Jimmy?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Good. I'm a Somerset West resident, and my concern is with the overall approach to the problem. And a little bit of background. I have a garden that is badly affected by this. In fact, like sort of nothing short of devastating. So I've got very, very involved in the whole campaign in the Somerset West area. My issue is primarily that I think the whole campaign is very reactive. And I do not believe that there's anything like sufficient kind of focus on what sort of preventative measures we need to do to prevent the spread of this. And first and foremost amongst this is a great big awareness campaign amongst people rather broadly to understand the symptoms and how to try and nab this little menace at the outset. And I really would like to introduce a lot of debate around that way forward.
Jimmy, we would definitely welcome that. I think we've spoken briefly about some of the methods that we've used to engage. And if there's anything you'd like to suggest for us to consider, please let us know. I think Mashudu spoke about the engagements varies from communities to communities because it might be different. Some communities appreciate an online engagement, some appreciate an in-person engagement. Some communities you can actually walk the streets and inform them. So it varies. But if there's anything else that you think we should be focusing on, we'd gladly receive that from you. That would really be most welcome. If the email would be in the participants list there or in the presentation that we've sent. Henk, is there? You want to pose your question or your comment?
Yes, please. First of all, I consider it a very serious problem, and I can see a very dramatic reduction in our tree canopy. And judging by the explosion of the infestations that have been reported over the last month, I think we are underestimating the problem. And I think there should be a serious increase in staff to get to the bottom of how many infestations there really are. And to rely on your residents is naive. I work with tree keepers, and we know that people are, first of all, they have very limited knowledge on trees, and their first reaction is remove the trees at the cheapest cost. And that is just going to cause problems with spreading the beetle. The second point is, you have a protocol where you say nothing about how you're going to enforce it. Again, don't rely on the residents. They're not going to stick to the rules. They're going to take the cheapest route. You should immediately ban the use of firewood, totally. And you should also prevent people individually from moving any timber that has been cut down. And it should only be done by those contractors that are controlled by the council. To leave it to individuals, I'm sorry, I've seen these operators and they are very seldom covered. And the third point, I'm trying to keep it all very, very brief. The third point is, if I'm correct that we're going to see a tremendous erosion in our tree canopy, our tree canopy is already low at 5.7. At the rate we're going, we're probably going to end up with 3%. And meanwhile, we have a target of 10%. Now, there is nothing in what I'm hearing today how you're going to offset what is being lost or what you're going to do about increasing our tree canopy, which will be to the benefit of the health of the residents of Cape Town. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Henk. Henk, we absolutely agree with you. With every single point that you've raised, but with the exception of relying solely on the residents, I think in the presentation here we are asking the residents' assistance where possible to help us identify the trees, increasing the resources available within the city. I think we've spoken about that, particularly the invasive species unit to get additional capacity there, and working closely with our Rec and Par guys and our solid waste teams there. With regards to the underestimation of the impact, I absolutely agree that. I don't think we may be calm and measured in our input here today, but we understand the risk, and I think it was also presented in Mashudu's slide. Tree replacement plan, the answer is yes. So our Rec and Parks colleagues are also been tasked to finalize a tree replacement program so we can replace what has been lost there. The other enforcement issues, definitely, I think if there's a magic wand that we can wave, we will implement all of that. But unfortunately, we can only enforce what we can enforce at this stage, and we will definitely be doing be a bit more stricter going forward within the ambits of local government, and hence the categorization of the beetle is also critically important to enable us to do that. Bellasted, I don't know if that's the name that I see here. Would you like to pose your question?
Yes, I certainly would. It's Professor Belstead from Somerset West.
Good evening.
Professor from Stellenbosch University. We've been fighting this beetle here for 2 years in Somerset West. You speak about containment of the problem. That is not the case. The beetle has spread all over the show with huge implications, economic implications for the fruit industry. We see that there are treatments available. I would urge Council urgently to investigate this. In your announcement, Councillor, you have told us about the urban forest. We believe that the legislative problem to your implementing treatment is acknowledgement of the fact that there is an urban forest. We have tried to engage with council, and we found it extremely difficult. We are not hearing a sounding board, and we hope that you will now, through the urgency of it appearing in Cape Town, see that you need to engage better with your learned public and with, in particular, those in Somerset West that have already had experience. So I don't want to labor on this, but there is a serious need for communication, please.
Prof, sorry, just if you're able to maybe just say mid-text who you've been engaging with, and which department has not been responsive.
We've been engaging with the whole of Cape Town. Your invasive species unit, WhatsApp, at least your website has been down for months. We have been engaging through our local councillor. You have held workshops here last year in June. Subsequent to that, we've heard no responses from City of Cape Town. So we urge you to respond with us. We have a whole WhatsApp group here that are trying to deal with the problem. So I would really like to see more engagement from City of Cape Town, constructive engagement, and not just simply top-down management whereby we are ignored.
And certainly that's not the intention. So I do apologize, that's been your experience, but most certainly we value our external stakeholders, particularly those with the professional skills, to give guidance as to how we proceed. So we will engage it. I think your councillor, probably either Councillor Peck or Councillor McFarlane, who is...
Councillor Peck, we have engaged extensively with Councillor Peck, but we have not achieved very much. We're trying to get a standard operating procedure in place for when you remove trees so that you spray them. A vast number of the problems arises from those trees that are removed, and when they are felled, what happens is that the beetles escape and then spread all over the show. So we are very, very concerned about the situation at the moment, and we have the feeling that we are not really making very much progress, unfortunately.
Okay. We will remedy that.
Can I come in here? It's Greg Peck speaking.
Hi, Greg.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Alderman, thank you. Professor Bell said thank you. We have had extensive discussions in Somerset West, and I've had public meetings and all sorts of things have taken place. But what we are lacking very much now is to get this a standard operating procedure out. Please, Alderman, we need that as soon as we possibly can, so that people can know. I keep on telling people they have to keep the tree on their own property right now. They have to cut it down themselves, and they have to bag it and solarize it. And that's all we have available at the moment. The city is taking down trees on public open spaces and not on private property. But we need to get that protocol out so that we can actually get it to everybody, please.
Correct. That has been mentioned in the earlier slides, and we understand the urgency there. Thanks, Greg. Colleagues, apologies. If the meeting ends now, it's because the time was until 8 o'clock, but we'll continue until it does. Just to remind you again to please complete the Google link form so we have your information, so we can send you the presentation and also the meeting link, or the recording thereof rather, and additional information such as the list of trees. So please, in the IM section, in the chat box, you would have the link there. I am going back into the chat box and see if there are any other... Linda was the last person who we spoke to, who responded to. Starting at the bottom there.
So there was a comment from IERM_president with regards to the focus on replanting. I think, Alderman, you've touched on that, that our Rex and Parks colleagues are busy with the tree replacement plan. And obviously, once that is done, it will be made available. Then there is Jackie B. The message sent 750. Thank you for making the presentation available. Okay, so that's just a thank you note. Penny Price 750.
There's all those comments. And if you move down there, perhaps by Jackie B. offering perhaps here would like to join the team as volunteers. Jackie, yes, please. I mean, we welcome that sort of assistance, and if you can engage with us afterwards, if you are able to assist in your area, and then Nigel. Okay, that's fine. That's responded to. Sarah, again, what is that? Just a thank you.
There is a question, Alderman, from Solomon Asia 752. Does the beetle have breeding season?
Oh, yes, I missed that one. Please, yeah.
So it does. We know that it prefers breeding during the hot season, but obviously it's got a very short reproductive life cycle. But it's mostly very, very, very active during the summer, or during the hot months, and then. I'm not able to scroll down. If you can just scroll down.
I can scroll. I'm scrolling down. And then we have Michael, just a comment, Claire, the tree planting program. Yes, we've responded to that. That's I reckon Park colleagues have, that's what they're commencing with. Proactive. Yes, in terms of the Aisen and Gundu, seems to be that's noted. Claire, the city should invest research that investigates the methods of killing the beetle. I think definitely we're exploring all of those options, Claire. Bruce, I see it being promoted to remove. There's evidence of any. I'm Bruce, I'm 758. Okay, and there's the comments there. Mashudu says we've got Bruce 758, and I'm going to read it. I see it being promoted to remove susceptible species, but is there no evidence of any variability in resistance within species? It concerns me that the certain species are being targeted, and it's possibly excessive. Do you have additional remarks to make on that one, Mashud? I think we've partially responded to a similar question early on.
Yeah, I think we have. I mean, like I indicated, there are species that we know once attacked, there's no hope of recovery, and some species do happen to resist, but there isn't enough evidence from what we have found so far that majority of the tree species that have been attacked to date are able to fight the infestation of the beetle. And as I've indicated, the initial plan, when we were aware of the infestation in the Somerset West area, was containing, meaning that to contain, we had to remove heavily infested. We started with removing heavily infested host trees. There were trees that we know that they were attacked, but they are non-reproductive hosts, so those were likely to survive. So out of the 4,000 plus trees that we have found to date, we have not removed all 4,000 trees because some of them we knew that they still had fighting chances because they are not regarded as a reproductive host. But at this moment, we don't believe that we've got significant data to say species X, Y, and Z, even if it's attacked, we can leave it. But the Stellenbosch University is doing some monitoring on some of the tree species in the Somerset West area, and once that research is published or the outcomes of that research are available, we are hoping that they will be able to give us an indication of which trees we don't need to worry about, which trees we really need to focus on. But there are like species that once attacked, there's no coming back.
Thank you, Mashudu. Claire, we've responded to that. The tree planting program is it's part of our current response to mitigate those losses. John, we need to listen to the Somerset West residents. Absolutely agree with you there. Councillor Donors, thank you for you're welcome. Carla, does the beetle 803? Does the beetle only infest trees? The answer is no. We've spoken about that. Also, Angela, just the cost in terms of removing of trees. That's a comment there. Claire, one last question. The presentation was informative. Thanking the city again. And then I'm going to go over to the last few hands that I see. Are these old hands or these new hands? Henk, Gary, and Dr. McDowell. Are these old hands or new hands?
New hands.
Okay. So Henk, so we've got the last.
And Alderman Andrews.
Thanks, Gary.
No, I don't have any further questions.
Okay, so we've got two more questions or comments. That will be Gary and then Dr. McDowell. Gary, you can have a go first, and then Dr. McDowell afterwards, and we'll take responses to those questions, and that will conclude and I'll summarize and conclude. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman, yes, I'd like to just endorse Henk and Jimmy and the Prof, because I agree with all of them. However, been working on the polyphagus for 3 years in the Heidelberg region. It's a question of research and development, and it doesn't happen overnight, sadly. So we have a number of reference points. This is all scientifically based, and the data is what leads us to come to either prophylactic or curative. So not to create false hope, but we believe that, I know it's a long way, this time next year we will have a far better understanding and indication, both from a prophylactic point of view and from a curative point of view, what can assist, because it has to be a collective approach and not just the residents and the city of Cape Town. I believe that a sniper approach to this, and with the SOPs that are about to be released, should engage all stakeholders that have some value add to the polyphagus. I call it a pandemic that we're actually going through at the moment. And then lastly, when the tree is about 15 meters high, there's no ways we can see into the top canopy to even address it. I'm talking when it's got foliage, to address if it has been infested with the polyphagus or a shottle beetle. So I think it needs a lot more attention and focus as to how we're going to roll this out. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Gary. Agreed. Dr. McDowell?
Thank you, Alderman. I just want to say to Mashudu, I think a previous questioner pointed out the possibility of within-species variance as opposed to between-species variance in resistance towards this shottle borer and its fungus. For example, we have the elm tree, Dutch elm tree disease. I believe certain strains of elm, which is a widespread species, are found to be, or were found to be, more resistant to this particular disease. So what I'm saying is, instead of automatically lopping every single oak tree down because the species is vulnerable or an ASA is vulnerable, we knock them all out. Some of them can well survive, depending how variable that particular species is itself. I believe they are variable. I mean, they come from Europe, big distributions, and we might be lucky. Some of ours may be more resistant than others. So I think that's the point we are looking at, not we've got this on our list, we're going to cut them all down sort of thing. In fact, it might be not a good thing to cut them all down. We've heard about the spreading of the beetles and their fungi. So your comments on that, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before you respond, there can be, there's one last question by Jean at 8:07. Possibly better communication and possibly impose hefty fines. Oh, okay, I thought it was but noted. I think if there's any communication avenues we are missing, please let us know. As I mentioned early on, Jean, that we know it's not a one size fits all. If WhatsApp works in your community or print media online, please let us know, and that in the Google form as well. We don't want to be prescribing how we engage with communities, but we must certainly want to understand what works well in your neck of the woods. Mashudu, just your last comment, and then I will conclude.
Thanks, Alderman. So just on the variation, obviously the reality is there's still a lot that we need to learn and understand about this beetle. It's a no-brainer. But again, just based on the observations we've made so far, I'm just going to give an example with some of the oak trees, for example, which we found early in 2019, and we sort of got a resistance from landowners for us to remove because they looked healthy. They were attracted, but they looked healthy. They looked like they were doing very well and so forth. But after some time, you find that their condition gets worse and worse. So I don't want to rule out the fact that it's possible that some species may be able, even though we know they are highly susceptible, I don't want to rule out the fact that they may have a survival chance. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that would give a particular tree a fighting chance. I choose to believe that a tree that is in healthy condition versus a tree that's not, obviously their fighting chances would be different, but I really don't want to rule out anything, except to say that there's still a lot that we need to learn. I think a speaker just before your comment indicated that in about a year's time we will have a lot more better understanding of the beetle and so forth. But at the time, at the present moment, the key thing is, what do we do knowing what we know now, whilst there are all other researches that are taking place? Do we fold our hands and say maybe the problem will sort itself out, or do we focus on what we know is available, as I've indicated in the beginning, to manage the population or to keep the population of this beetle to a manageable level? So I think that's the key thing. But there is a lot of research that still needs to be done. There's a lot of research that's happening. So for now, we can't say yes or there's no variation and whatnot. But what's key is, what do we do knowing what we know currently? And obviously, based on what we have observed over the last 5 years, do we learn from those experiences to inform our decisions, understanding that there's research. We can't rule that out. There's still a lot of research that still needs to be done. There's a lot of research that's happening, but what do we do in the current moment?
I appreciate that indeed, Mashudu. What I'm saying is, it's a bit like analogous to COVID and people species. People vary in their response to COVID. I'm just putting that out there, that a possibility there is variation. Forgetting about how healthy they are, but possibly genetic resistance in certain cases. We can't just blanket everything, all the species is off the list or on the list. That's all I'm trying to say. And I really praise your work and efforts, the whole of the system, in trying to get a protocol going. I myself very concerned about our local bees. Thank you very much.
I fully agree. I fully agree with that in each individual tree, whether of the same species or not, they would definitely react differently. But obviously, there has to be some form of scientific data that says English oak 1 versus English oak 2. This one is, you understand? So that's why I'm saying we understand that research still needs to happen, and we need to get to a point wherein we are able to detect or identify such kind of variability in the genetic or the fighting ability of each individual tree.
Thank you, Mashudu, for your time tonight, and to all of our participants. I hope that you found tonight's engagement quite useful. It's part of a series of engagements that we will have, just to as part of our education awareness efforts, to keep you informed. The team is working closely with each other in terms of internally, but also looking at how do we sustainably respond operationally to what has been said here. If there's anything that we're missing, I know that Prof. Belstedt and Dr. McDowell, some useful nuggets that you've suggested and one or two other comments in terms of communication. We have noted all of that, and most certainly we welcome all your input. I don't want you to think for a moment that we are not wanting to engage. We definitely welcome that, and we'll further reach out to you to see how we can engage. I think that's primarily the point that I wanted to raise. The link will be made available. Register on the Google form. That's the database we will use to circulate the information. We will also circulate the list of trees that have been confirmed reproductive hosts, and any other information that you'd like to send to us. The email would be in the presentation as well. Both Mashudu's email and, of course, our invasive species email address would be located in the presentation. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good evening further.